Davidson County to order, and the first item is to have Teresa let her get back to her place, but let her read the code relative to how we work.
Pursuant to the provisions of Section 268030 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, please take notice that decisions of the Sports Authority Board may be appealed to the Chancery Court of Davidson County for review under a common law writ of certiorari. Any appeal must be filed within 60 days after entry of a final decision by the board. Any person or other entity considering an appeal should consult with an attorney to ensure that time and procedural requirements are met.
Thank you, Terry. Well, we're very fortunate today to have a new member added to our Sports Authority, and he's with us today. We have Chuck Merriweather. Let me tell you a little bit about him in case you don't know Chuck. He's a retired Major League Baseball umpire. After working in the American League from 1988 to 1999, he umpired in both leagues from 2000 to 2009. He's a graduate of Father Ryan High School. He graduated from Athens State College with a BS in Health and Physical Education. He became interested in umpiring after seeing a print advertisement for an umpire school. He first umpired in the minor leagues in 1979, reaching the American Association in 1986 before continuing up to the American League. He officiated in the 2004 World Series, 2007 World Series, and in the All-Star Game in 96 through 2002. Chuck also umpired in the 2003 National League Championship Series and 2006 American League Championship Series, and in 7 Division Series in 98, 99, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2004, 2007. He was also the third base umpire for David Combs' perfect game on July 18, 1999. Most recently, he was the second base umpire for Mark Mueller's perfect game on July the 23rd, 2009. Currently, Chuck works with the Children's Ministry and is a trustee of the 15th Avenue Baptist Church. He serves as a motivational speaker for youth and civic groups. Chuck is also involved in Major League Baseball, where he serves as a talent scout and personnel development for the next class of professional umpires. Chuck has 2 sons. Jeremy is a recent graduate of Middle Tennessee, and his son Chris was a walk-on point guard for Vanderbilt's basketball team. Chris has completed his BS and is currently completing his Master's in Business Administration at Vanderbilt. Please join me in welcoming Chuck to the Board of Directors for the Sports Authority. Chuck?
Thank you very much.
It's welcome to have you, and you'll get to meet a lot of great people that you'll be serving here with. And if Emmett hadn't already been working on you, he'll put you to work and, very soon.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Glad to be a part of it.
Right. Got the approval of the December 6th meeting minutes, which you have had. Would you have any additions, corrections, or would you like to see them approved as presented?
Move for approval. Second.
Okay, the minutes, motion's been made and second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. And we'll go straight to the Executive Director's report to Emmett. Emmett, we're ready to talk about your report.
Mr. Chairman, I did want to talk about the civic event. We just had representatives from Airstream RV Association join us. It's a very honorable group. They would like to use the LP field for one of their association meetings. Staff did not recommend the waiver simply because of their tax status, not for any other reason. They've met all the other considerations, and it's for the board to determine whether or not the board wants to grant them a waiver so that they could use about 100 spaces, and they'd be at $5 per space at LP Field.
Our tax status.
Would you identify yourself, sir, so the record will show?
Pardon me?
Identify
I'm sorry. I'm Fred Lieb, L-I-E-B, and I'm first vice president of the local organization, which is called the Wally Bynum Caravan Club. Can't say Airstream because of, you know, stuff. But we are a 501c7 organization. I believe your rules call for either a C2 or a C6. And the C7 basically says that you're a membership social organization with no income other than dues. So it's a much simplified tax form that we file. And I'm sorry, I've got a cold and it's kind of doing me here.
Okay.
But anyway, that's the only real difference is that we are a C7 corporation instead of a C6 corporation. And so for that reason, we would ask if the board would grant us the waiver for using our C7 status instead of the C6 or C2.
Okay. Any questions or?
Chairman, I'd be glad to make a motion to allow the use by this group for this purpose.
Second.
Motion's made and second. Are there any discussions or any questions that any member might have? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you, Emmett, and thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to run because I'm on a meter.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the second item, item B, parking request for proposal, is one that we're asking for deferment until all of the details related to the release of that contract are met.
Okay. They're still internally working on the contract and how it will be let, et cetera, right?
Yes, sir.
Margaret?
I'd just like to know more information than that.
Through the intergovernmental agreement, Metro Sports Authority has tasked Metro Finance, Metro Legal to support us as it relates to items that are of the legal nature and the procurement nature. The procurement process has been followed to the degree that the Sports Authority is involved in that. A member of this board and staff had a committee that reviewed a number of responses to the request for proposal. That committee has submitted to the Director of Procurement a response that indicates their preference for how we move forward as far as that proposal being awarded. Because of some internal vetting that's being done by the Department of Finance, the Department of Finance has asked that the contract be held until that process is completed. It has not been completed to my knowledge to date, and for that reason, the staff requests that we wait until we get the full blessing of the Department of Finance for public release of that request for proposal.
Just to follow them, we've made a recommendation as to which vendor.
Within
is that already determined?
Within the procurement process, a recommendation we have made, the Sports Authority was a part of that process. A committee, which is often done, is brought together, and they go over into the detail all of the proposals that were submitted in response to the request. So all of that work has been done.
And Helen represents us as a member of this authority in that process.
I apologize if I missed a meeting. I don't recall that, I didn't recall that we sent a recommendation.
We've not, well, that's correct. This board has not gotten the recommendation from procurement, so it's working through the process. We do not have a recommendation to give to the board to ask for a vote.
So they make the choice.
They make the choice through
and
the
then we'll bring
procurement
that to
process
us as a
and bring it to
recommendation.
you. Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, let me just ask a follow-up. When did our committee make a recommendation to finance?
Margaret, I don't remember the exact date.
Well, it's the summer, is it fall?
Yes, last quarter of last year. Maybe,
So it was the fall of last year.
maybe the fall of last year.
So how long has finance had this recommendation from our committee?
I'd say 60 days, 30 days.
Oh, so we didn't have it took us till October, November to make a recommendation to finance?
I don't remember when the committee completed its work, but that recommendation has been before them for.
Were you on the committee?
I was. And I'll give you the date. I'll I'll check back when the committee gave its recommendation.
Do you actually know why this process is being held up?
I don't have a reason that it's been held up.
Do you know, Terry?
I wasn't on the committee, and I haven't been a part of the process, so I don't really have firsthand information. I mean, I think there was just more information that was maybe needed in terms of vendors or.
This has been a year, I think, is that right, since we heard from Metro Finance about Central Parking's inability to answer questions about receipts and back up the monies that they were collecting. And I think the board was really clear about wanting to move on this quickly. And so, because they're still collecting, as I understand. Is that right?
That's right.
So I just would like for a clearer answer why we don't have something done. I mean, I'm not saying that something's not appropriately happening. I'm not saying that at all. I just think that we as a board should have more information about why it's been over a year since we made that clear we wanted something done about this, and they're still collecting.
I'll request that, Mr. Chairman, and get an answer for the board.
We will ask through the procurement process to give us an answer for this authority as to why we haven't had a response and why it can't move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any questions of Mr. Andrews before we move to the LP Field report? Okay, Walter, let's go to your report for LP Field.
Am I standing right here?
Yes, you can stand there. I think we can hear you.
Okay.
But I don't. Perfect.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. And fellow board members. Hope everybody had a great holiday. Since our last meeting, we at our building, we played 2 NFL football games. We won one, lost one. We also had a very successful Music City Bowl event, Christmas Eve, which the announced crowd was more than 55,000. So it's been exciting through those holidays because we worked a lot, and now we're back working again because we're working on the renovation for the stadium. If you look at your tab 1 at your calendar, you will
This
see
is the
that.
report that all of you have, I believe.
Yep. Does everybody have this report? I assume everybody receives one. Did you receive this report?
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
I received it, but I didn't bring it.
That's okay. We do have an extra for you.
Got an extra one, I apologize.
Walter, let me ask you, since we have Rich Rickman with us, our Director of Finance, and he's got to go to another meeting, and we can come right back to your report. But he's got distributed to us information relative to the bonds that we had approved, and he wants to just give us some information and bring us up to date. Rich?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. Let me introduce with me Hugh Tanner, who is the Managing Director of Morgan Keegan. And as you may recall, Morgan Keegan was selected to be the senior underwriter on the bonds, and I'm going to have him talk a few minutes about how the bond sale went. But let me say that I think it went very successfully. We have signed the contracts, and we will actually close on the bonds. We're scheduled to close next Thursday. But what I wanted to do briefly is give you a little update on how they sold and what the impact to the authority is. This is sort of the same format of presentation that we gave out when we originally started the process. So if you would just kind of cut over to page 3, I think is really kind of the key page, and that sort of gives you the key summary of results from the sale of the bonds. If everybody's following with me, you'll kind of this is the page I'm looking at on page 3. I think a couple of key points that I wanted to mention is that obviously for the important number is in the third box on the top of the page, the total funds available, which is $26,796,222. And that is the amount of funds that will be available for the improvements to LP Field, which we think meets all of the goals that that we set out upon when we start this project. That includes about $4.2 million of cash we either now have on hand or cash that we will be collecting in 2012 from the ticket sales that won't be needed to cover debt service, the first year's debt service. So very successful in terms of getting the amount of money that we needed for the projects. And one of the issues we were all concerned about was the term of the bonds. We originally had talked about a 25-year term, and we were actually able to get the amount of proceeds we want and do it over a 22-year period, which is better than what we showed before. And that's really because of interest rate going down since we showed you the proposal. And then on the bottom of the page, as you recall, we also were going to refund at the same time a portion of the arena debt that was used in 1998 bonds. And once again, the results proved better than what we had anticipated when we started this process. If you look at the sort of the middle column, it says gross savings. We were able to save over the remaining 8 or 10 years life of the bonds about $1.4 million. Actually, it's only about 6 years left on the bonds. They go to 2018. We'll save gross savings of $1.4 million, which present value savings is $1.2 million, which is about $200,000 more than what we thought it was going to be. And what that means is effectively is that's about a $200,000 a year annual savings for the remaining life of the bonds. So with just less debt service we have to pay. I'd like to ask you just to kind of talk a minute about kind of how they sold the bonds and kind of the market receptivity to it. It was a very oversubscribed deal, and they had a lot of buyers for it, which were able to actually lower the interest rates.
Thank you, Rich. We had a syndicate that was put together by Metro Finance that we led. That we went out in the market taking indications of interest on Tuesday morning, and what that means is we put out what we proposed the interest rates where we thought they should be compared to what the comparable U.S. Treasuries would be. We'd sell them a spread over the Treasuries. Well, because of the uniqueness and the quality of your credit, we were able to expedite the process. The market was kind of sloppy. By sloppy, I meant it was when we got ready to go out that morning, bonds were selling off, so yields were rising, but we were able to stick to it. It firmed up during the day, but because of your credit and how unique it was, not only were we able to hit what we had proposed, we were able to actually reduce some of the rates on the long end to increase the savings of what we proposed. And because of that, instead of pricing the following day, we went ahead and locked in on Tuesday and we're able to secure this financing. And it's a testament to your authority and your credit, and we thank you. We appreciate the opportunity. It's fun for me because I was the one that actually did the original 98 bonds and have been involved in most everything, not maybe directly, but in all of your financing. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And let me add, the city has a financial advisor that checks the rates with Morgan Keegan, so we obviously just didn't rely on what the underwriter said, but we had the city's financial advisor, and there's always a little tension between the two, which is good, because you want to make sure the city gets the cheapest rates possible, but we also have to sell the bonds. And so it was a good process, and even our financial advisor, who are not prone to compliment underwriters for good jobs, did say publicly that Morgan Keegan did a very good job in terms of aggressively selling these bonds and marketing it to get us the lowest interest rate that we could. And so, again, a very successful sale. It will close Thursday of next week. Money will be wired, and then it'll be up to the authority and Mr. McLaughlin and his crowd to make sure that it gets spent wisely and that we do get the improvements that we need. The only other thing I would call your attention to, because we talked about this a little bit at length, is over on page 5. Remember we were structuring this so we'd always have at least 1.1 times coverage going forward. That gave us the security to make sure we were all right. We're able to, if you look at the last column, in most years we're actually able to get 1.11 times coverage. Not a huge increase over 1.1, but again, it shows that we're able to perform and do this a little more successfully than what we had shown before. So obviously happy to address any questions, but it was a good sale, and we look forward to the money being spent wisely.
Mr. Taylor, one thing I should have mentioned, just so everybody will know, just give you kind of an indication of where the interest rates turned out. On the refunding issue, the Series B, this is amazing, but the first maturity would be in July of this year, and the yield came in at 0.38%. The longest one, which was in 2018, as Mr. Riebling had said, was 2.94. So your cost of funds on the refunding was at 2.49%, which is remarkable. And then on the State Series A, which is the stadiums, they started in 2013 at a 1.14 and went out in 2033 to a 5.23. So you had a cost of funds of 2.49 on the Series B, which was the refunding, and a 4.68 on the new money for the stadium improvements, which is phenomenal. Congratulations again.
And then remember, these are taxable rates, unlike a lot of the original stadium debt, which is done on a tax-exempt basis. These rates are probably as attractive as the ones done in 98 or 96 originally, but those were tax-exempt bonds. The market is just so low. Rates are so low right now. Just as an aside, I mean, we're doing a couple more refinancings right now for the city just because rates are just so at levels that, Mr. Tanner, have you ever seen this level?
No, sir. I mean, when I started, a one-year tax-exempt rate was an 8%.
He's a lot older than he looks, though, I might add. So.
Any questions?
But Rich was my lawyer on
That's
that.
right.
I apologize for my ignorance of high finance.
Oh, no, here it comes. Here it comes. I got a call again.
Who bought these bonds? Were they individuals or institutions or?
It was a combination of mainly trust departments, money market funds, institutions, and individuals. But predominantly it was what you would call professional retail, if you will, people that are managing money for individuals and were buying it as a collective and then divvying it up into the various accounts because they can get, obviously, economies of scale from doing that. But it did go to some individuals. It was open throughout our system, throughout our co-manager system, which was Piper Jaffray, who was a co-senior manager, and then our two co-managers were Terminus Securities and Rice Financial. So you had 4 firms selling the bonds throughout any and every source, under every rock we could find.
That was a good question, Mr. Bennett. It was not. It was a good question.
That was not a gotcha.
He surprised you, Rich.
I like being surprised every once in a while, so it's good.
Any other questions from Rich or Mr. Tanner? Thank you all for coming this morning and sharing this good information with us.
Chairman Elliott, could I just interject to kind of tie everything together about what's been talked about? We had a pre-bid meeting at LP Field last week, and we will be getting bids in for all the projects the week of January 23rd. So we will keep Metro Government and the Sports Authority abreast of all the bids as they come in. One other thing just to bring up that we had mentioned in the process that we would keep you abreast of are the events that we're going to have at LP Field. And we are going to have the soccer matches in March. We've given you a breakdown of everything that's happening at LP Field, including the in-stadium events, obviously the CMA Music Festival and the Chesney concert. We also have itemized some of the parking lot events that we will have that would preclude us from having events inside the stadium at that point in time. We are actively talking and having current discussions about events in the fall, as well as 2 prominent events in 2013, which we need to be working on right now. And Kim has kind of been my designated correspondent, if you will, with the Sports Authority. So I try to keep Kim abreast of where everything's going. We're having some good confidential discussions, and we're hopeful that we will have something else to announce at the next Sports Authority meeting.
Well, we understand the confidentiality aspect.
Right.
We're glad to see him just working with you in this.
We're going to keep the dialogue going.
Walter, we're back to you.
Try to throw the ball back to Mark.
I didn't figure, Walter, I thought you wouldn't mind us talking about the
Absolutely not. I prefer every time. And Rich, that's fine. I think we stopped, we were on tab 1, and I did ask if everybody had a copy of the LP Field report. As we always do, we always furnish a year-long report to each of the board members that represents all of the events that are in the club, parking lots, lounges, any event that's in the building. We'd like to have you to see that so that you'll know that things are always happening inside LP Field. In tab 2, we have our LP Field casualty loss damage, which shows a total of $108,000. We received a couple checks yesterday, about $400, and we expect to receive a heftier check that will certainly reduce this deficit considerably. And we should have that, and we'll be reporting on that at our next meeting. Tab 3 is our ticket user fee balance, which shows that there is slightly more than $3.3 million in that particular fund. Under tab 4 is our capital fund balance, which shows that we are a little more than $1.1 million. Under tab 5 is where our unfiled reimbursement request. And we're showing that we have receivables over $2.8 million. I have spoken with Terry and mentioned to her that we wanted to schedule a meeting sometime in February before our next board meeting and discuss some of those receivables and try to work things out. Tab 6 is our capital expense report and pending projects that's underway at this particular time. Some of our projects have been completed, they're ongoing. Our last page shows the equipment and the new renovations that are underway at LP Field that Donna just discussed. So those are all of our projects that we have that's undergoing. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Anybody have any questions of Walter or Don or other staff members here from the Titans?
Mr. Chairman, Walter and some others had a meeting earlier this week that's a communication meeting that fits into what he's indicating, which is that LP Field is busier than ever. And he's working with colleagues throughout Metro government, the Metro Police Department, Fire Department, and others to talk about scheduling. Because what Doug is talking about with more events on site, Walter has added responsibility of making sure each one of those goes well from a logistics vantage point. And he is continuing to do good work in bringing the parties together that need to be together in a room to talk about how to make sure that our guests are treated very well at the campus.
Okay, perfect. There's one other item that I wanted to mention. I passed around a letter that was written to Emmett as well as Nancy Whittemore, the Director of General Services. In summary, this letter was written so that Metro and the Sports Authority would be notified about the procurement process. And if Metro was interested in salvaging some of the equipment that will be taken down and basically destroyed, then we need to be notified so that we would know and set a time so that they would come and visit and look and see if anything was salvageable. But at this particular time, we have not heard from General Services about visiting. No, I don't think you've heard from them.
Mr. Chairman, as you realize, the equipment that Walter is talking about is the property of Metro Sports Authority. What Walter has done, as he has historically done, and the Titans have historically done, is provided items for surplus if there's any value that goes back to the Sports Authority to reduce the cost of the bonds. And he's following that process. It's a standard procedure. He's just updating the board to let us know that he's looking for every way to save taxpayer dollars and put those back into decreasing the cost of the bonds. And we thank you for that, Walter.
Absolutely. Are there any questions?
Mark?
But are you saying that you have some equipment and you're waiting for us to let you know if it could be recycled?
Yes.
And so what's the status of that?
The process is there is an organization in Metro government that handles surplus property. Walter decommissions the property, tells them that it's available. They pick it up if there's any value. It goes through a process of being sold to another entity, and then the money is captured by Metro Finance and then sent to the sports
What's the
bar.
process of them getting back in touch with him? Not the process of selling it, but do you know?
He calls them, they call him.
Okay, so they just haven't called you back?
No. One of the things
Did you
our
check on
consultant had recommended that the property is really non-salvageable.
Okay.
It's not. After the demolition, it has to be removed immediately. The stadium does not have any space to collect that type of property. So in the RFP, we've asked whomever is awarded the RFP that property will be removed from the premises immediately.
I just might point out, we went through this one time before. For example, there were hundreds of television sets that were replaced. And we looked into, surely there's somebody somewhere that needs some good analog, obsolete television sets. And there was also something with regard to the scoreboard. There was, and the idea was that surely there's a high school or maybe a high school in Texas that needs but it's too small for high schools in Texas. They do but somewhere, there was a college or somewhere that could use a nice NFL scoreboard that is obsolete for us. And my memory is it turned out that it was just more trouble than it was worth to try to salvage those things and repair them and put them back in place and go through the Metro procurement. That it was more reasonable for the contractor that's replacing it to go ahead and salvage it or destroy it and give whatever credit it's worth, rather than us trying to sell it. And at the time, it seemed to us that surely there was some better use for all of this really nice stuff that we had bought 10, 12 years ago. But it really turned out that it wasn't, and that the most reasonable thing to do is let the contractor dispose of it, give Metro the chance to see if there's some school that needs something or whatever. But as a practical matter, that's just a little historical perspective on the same issue that came up one time before.
Thank you.
Just so I understand, so that whoever is bidding on it and the successful bidder has to salvage the property that the replacement that they're replacing, is that correct?
From the premises.
Okay. And that's for all of the equipment?
Let me just add a note. Scott Rayson from Waller Lansing. I think that the contractors and the consultant are suggesting that, for example, with the video boards, it would cost a lot more to remove the video board and keep it in a way that it could be sold than if they were just able to remove the video board knowing that it would not be resold. So particularly with that item, what Walter said in this letter was, let us know if you want to salvage it, because there is an incremental cost to salvage, and if there is no plan to salvage, then the lower cost approach would be with RFP to the contractors is just to let them get rid of that board however they want to get rid of it.
So we're just waiting on general services to respond to let us know whether or not anything's even economically feasible to salvage.
Correct.
And what General Services does is they put out through their network an offer.
Notice.
And then the offer comes back and they see whether there's any value or not, and then they inform Walter. That's how the loop is closed.
But if they don't respond, that doesn't mean it just never happens, right?
Well,
I mean, we know
the
that
reason
they're at
for
least
the-
going to post the offering.
The reason for the discussion is to let the board know that it's not a willy-nilly process for surplusing property. The Titans turn to us, and then we follow the precedent set by the board on how it should be done. So that chain, even though it's slow and clumsy, is being followed so that we can assure you that if there was any value for the surplusing of the property, then the board gets the value. That's, we didn't mean to bring you into the boring details in the surplus world, but it is what it is. So we're following that process. We want to, at some point in the future, assure you that all the T's have been crossed and I's been dotted on this issue.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Walter?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's move to the Bridgestone Arena report. Sean?
I'm more than happy to be here. I'm going to follow Walter's suit and stand in the gallery. Not welcome to the board. Thanks for accepting the appointment. Look forward to getting to know you a little bit better. We have a nice report to share, as I always do. I'm really optimistic. I do have some bittersweet news to share with everybody. If you don't know Brock Jones, he's booked our building for the past 6 years, 6.5 years. He's done a phenomenal job. When he got here, the building, it was decent business, and he's really grown it to where it is today. Last year, we finished 6th busiest building in the country. Foreshadow the report. We just got the report. We finished 6th again this year. So 2 very great years. And during his tenure, he's done some tremendous things in making Nashville a priority stop, making our building a place where people want to be, where they want to play. Unfortunately, when you have that type of success, people notice it. And he was offered a job with Global Spectrum, one of the giants in our industry. They manage about 50 or 60 buildings around the country, and he's going to be responsible for programming some of those. So at the end of the month, we'll be moving to Philadelphia, which is unfortunate for him. Saturday, he will be rooting for us against the Flyers. When we go there, I think he might be wearing orange and black. He couldn't be here this morning. He's packing some boxes. But really, I just want to thank him in front of all of you for what he's done for our community and for the building, because he really has repositioned us, and we're going to be able to build upon it. What's nice is it's a great relationship. The transition is going to be a very smooth one. And even when he's there, hating Philadelphia in the snow, he will help us as we transition. I expect by the end of this month, maybe middle of February at the very, very latest, we'll be able to announce who we're going to replace Brock with and what the plan is. And if all goes well, he'll end up being a person he's worked with very closely over the years. So again, it'll be a nice, smooth transition. We're going to be able to build upon what he's built for us and really take advantage of what he's leaving behind. So again, it's always sad when you see someone leave that's done such a great job on one hand. On the other hand, we're very excited and happy for him because it's a tremendous job. And he wouldn't have gotten it if he didn't feel the success that he did for us. So if you see him around, he'll be around for every show, every game. And don't hesitate to say thank you to him for that patience, because it's great. As far as our report goes, again, the reports just came out. We finished 2011 as the 6th busiest building in the country. And if you remember last year when I was bragging about the 6th busiest building in the country, where we never ranked higher than 25th or 19th, whatever it was, a few people, why I don't know, said, oh, you're only the 6th busiest building because you did 9-yard quick shows. Which always scratched my head. I said, well, hey, you're right. We did 9-yard quick shows, therefore we are that busy. Without 9-yard quick shows this year, unfortunately, for the community, we were still able to maintain that spot. And as I said 18 months ago when I got here, our goal is to finish in the top 10 year in and year out. That's the goal. When we hit that year in and year out, we're eventually going to find ourselves as the 3rd busiest, 2nd busiest, and the 1st busiest. And what that means is, as you stay in that top 10, you're going to stay in the top 10. Success really breeds success. Every tour, every manager, every act realizes that Nashville is a market you can't pass. And when you look at our peer groups, when other people say, you know, what's Nashville's peer, what's our building's peer, they want us to look at Charlotte, Indianapolis, Columbus. We're resetting that, you know, because of the incentives that you put in place, Metro, and the mayor's office. Our peer groups now are Chicago, LA, New York. That's the conversation that we're having. So congratulations to everybody. It's nice to be in that footing again. And this year is off to a great start as well. We look at Christmas week alone, we had 5 sold-out events, 3 sold-out hockey games, 2 sold-out concerts, fulfilling a wide demographic. We went from Zach Brown Band, which was a great fun party. were guys probably 35 to 50 years of age. Our hockey games, which sort of a wider breadth of age and incomes. And then New Year's Eve, we had base connected, which probably an average age of 18 or 19. Last year they paid for about 3,000 people. We played for 10,000 and sold the shit out. So really doing some nice things, and we're starting this year off with them. And I expect next year at this time, say Happy New Year, we finished as the 4th or 5th busiest year in the country. So we're doing really well, we're pacing very well, and we're just enjoying a really nice stretch. Tonight we have a game, and despite what the weatherman says, the dusting of snow will not stop us from having a game. So if you have a ticket, show up, because tonight I think will be our 9th consecutive sellout. We still have some tickets available, so when we leave here, the box office is open. You can help get us there. But when we sell out tonight, and there's still a push to do it, we'll sell out Saturday, which will be 10 consecutive ones. We set the franchise record last week with 7 consecutive sellouts. So again, we're just in a nice stretch right now, and it's showing in all of our financials. So that's our report poll. I know there's a second agenda item that is always put under mine, but I think I've done my work. I'm sharing the voice. I don't know if you want to touch on that or bonds, or if you want, I can jump to the financials.
First, I think the board congratulates you and the entire staff at Bridgestone for your efforts and successes, and we're always glad to hear the success stories. So
it's a lot more fun to tell.
Stay in that top 10.
That is great.
Mr. Chairman, we'll just continue to put unfinished work on the agenda. Our process is that we start for preparing for meetings some weeks in advance. Sometimes those items are taken off the list because the work is completed. This is one where it is not completed. It is part of the ongoing discussion with Powers Management and the team related to incentive payment and discussions that are current as it relates to the contract with the team. So it is not complete. We'll update you when that part of this agenda item is completed.
Steve?
At the last meeting, there was discussion that there would be meetings and discussions about the whatever changes we might want to make in the management agreement and the lease and all of that. Have those started? Are they?
Since our last meeting, we haven't met with Metro as far as myself and maybe Rich or Greg. Michelle Kennedy, Sean Marshall have met with Larry a few times just to look at the contract as a whole. Are there any contractual elements that aren't working up or down? It's a massive, if you will. I think we're going to try to get together for the first formal time, ideally the end of next week, if not the week after, to really start working towards how do we look at the deal. And if you remember, we had an opportunity to pull the incentives. The deadline was December 31st. We said, let's extend those. We waived our right to May 1st, I think it was, so we can really spend some time and work with Metro and the board to see is there a better way for us to frame our relationship. Where it goes, I'm not sure, but we're very open to possibly reducing the guarantees to us and then letting us enjoy some different upside, that's there. So I'm pretty enthusiastic about where we're going to end up. But if we end up and say, well, the deal that we have right now is a good deal, then they'll have a decision to make in late April or May, whether or not the legal incentives are working so well in place. But again, I think we're going to start those probably in a week or so. And then our goal is in a very short period of time, 2, 3, 4 weeks, be able to identify what we want to do from a business relationship standpoint, if there are any modifications, and then keep everyone in the loop and bring it to the table. So.
At the last meeting, the chair was going to appoint a member of the board to sit in on these discussions. Has that been done?
Yeah, it has been. Lauren Brisky is going to represent us. So we'll be bringing it back to this authority, and time will slip away from us. And I think that's what you're referencing. May will be here.
Yeah.
So we need to get it done, as we've made a commitment to do it. And Lauren will give us an updated report at the next meeting, hopefully.
I have a question about the monthly financials, if that's appropriate at this time.
Sure. If I can add one more thing to where we are. We, the Predators, have in that regard, we hired a gentleman named Bob Lee from Lee & Associates to really look at the overall contract, what are the direct impacts, what's working, what's not working, what dollars are being generated, what dollars are being incentivized or provided from the city standpoint, and what's the true economic impact of everything. We should probably have that report done in a month or so. I was waiting for Bob to walk in the room. The only problem with Bob is he doesn't have a watch or a calendar. But he's one of the very best at what he does. And I think when we get that report, you're going to enjoy some of the information in there. We'll be able to provide it with you all. The last report that was done, the real report was done in 98 or 99. I left out 7 pages. Then a report was done in 2007 or 2008. And again, that left out certain elements. The idea is to take what was done in both of those and update them for a holistic report. So I think that'll allow all of us to realize what's happening, good and bad, with the success that we're having. So.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, as a starting point in your folder, the board members will see behind tab 4, lease and use agreement, operating management agreement comparison with key provisions. So we are responding to requests from board members on background on where we are as far as the lease is concerned.
Okay.
Can I just add to that? I think this is a great chart. This is a great comparison and a great start. I was just wondering, part of I think what the discussion was at the previous board meeting about this was for us to take these provisions, the current provisions, and look at what the actual financials are that are being, look at our financial statements and see how they're impacted by these provisions, which I think is what you're saying, Mr. Lee. You've asked Mr. Lee to do. Is that correct?
That's one of the elements.
One of the.
Yeah, and the other is we really measure where is the tax base coming from.
Yeah.
Who's coming to our events? How does that translate to measure?
So I was wondering whether or not with this report that Mr. Lee's doing, if our staff too can, well, obviously want to review that, but also still give this board this information about prior to when we are looking at this agreement in May, that we take these current provisions that are there and actually look at the financial impact, not just read what the provision says, but actually look at what's been coming in and how these provisions affect that. So that when we get the agreement in May, we'll have this baseline for us as a board. So that if you would actually give us numbers with the provisions at the next meeting, I think that would help. Probably that would be
with the Department of Finance too. That's
right.
Yeah. Okay.
Financials, you all received it. I can give you the high points or just answer questions.
The question that I ask, every time I look at one of these boards, my eyes sort of glaze over, and there are some specific items that I have difficulty figuring out from the figures that you give us, and I'm wondering if there's some way that we could get not only the overall financial effect for the arena, but specifically to the taxpayers. For example, the loss cap on expenses, whether the taxpayers are maxed out in each section of time. With regard to the revenues, does the increase in you've reported significant increases in revenue and attendance and all of that, and all of those things are good. I'd like to see the impact to the city, to the taxpayers. For example, there's a seat use fee. How much more money have the taxpayers received in seat use fee this year over last year? And that gives us sort of an idea of not just how well you're doing, but how you doing well is helping us do well also.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Well, we are us. we are us. We manage your facility. And when you look at it, when you look at the cap, for example, that was an element that was introduced in the 07 renegotiation release. Prior to that, the city was responsible for all losses. Then the cap was put in, saying it would be capped at, right now it's roughly $4 million. At the time it's 3.7, and it grows with CPI per year. So anything above that loss, is paid by our organization. So yeah, we are protected there. When it comes to the CU's charge, which right now year to date's up 14-15%. We look at the predator rent, which is up, I don't know, 50% or so over last year, 50%. Food and beverage, is the rework deal, we get reduced rents right now. That's up close to 10%. Expenses are down 1%, even with that revenue growth. So things are good. I think, and I don't want to pass the buck on this, but the better person to maybe do that would be someone in Metro Finance, because I can't tell you how our P&L overlays to what hits the taxpayers or not. I can tell you how it hits our P&L and then where that responsibility comes in. But when you look at our management fee is $2 million. That was brought in when the cap was put in. So we capped the losses, and that was basically thought in management fee. An incentive was put in place where we can earn up to $2 million. To earn up to $2 million, we had to generate a minimum of $4 million in new growth revenue in certain elements, whether we see user charge or rent or varied revenues. We're probably double what that generation is. The cap is still $2 million. How those revenue growths affect the taxpayers, if you will, I don't know that, but maybe someone from Metro Finance can. The other is, this is a direct impact. It doesn't measure, when we do a game tonight and we grow the attendance from 12,000 to 17,000, whatever it may be, what does that mean for sales tax generated outside our doors? What does it mean for hotel taxes? I don't know. I think the report from Mr. Lee will take some assumptions on that. But maybe there's someone in Metro Finance, and I'm more deferring to you on this to really answer your question. I can talk to our P&L, how our P&L dumps to Metro's finance. I don't know.
I'm really thinking from a public relations standpoint that to explain to the citizen on the street why a subsidy to
incentive.
Well, an incentive, but it's a subsidy. It's $7 or $8 million a year. And to show how by putting these incentives and subsidies in place, there is some benefit, financial benefit to the city. And I frankly don't know the extent. And I've tried to figure it out by looking at this, and I can't figure it out. Again, I'm not experienced in high finance, but just sort of a simple explanation that says, by virtue of the fact that we have increased our attendance this much, then the incentive fee or the seat user fee, which goes directly to Metro, has increased this much.
And part of what Bob Lee is going to do is that, and I'm trying to use the term PR piece, that's what it is to a degree. When the city went out in '93 and said, we're going to build this building, let's see what happens. Obviously the benefit, it's intuitive to all of us. We know what's happened in the whole district. At the same time, it's 15 years ago now since we opened. It's been a great 15 years, but how is it impacting, everyone, today? That's what Mr. Lee's piece will do in a lot of, realms, not just the hockey piece, not just the event piece, but how the two affect each other. But again, I'd like to maybe Bob Lackey or someone to really take the individual growths of CU's fee, the rent, reducing what the losses, and that's the real goal. The real benefit, to everybody is the incentives are here. When we're doubling what those impacts are, that's tangible. How do we overlay that? Bob can do that, Bob Lackey, and Bob Lee. When we can reduce what the loss is, that's an obvious, that's there. But again, I hate to talk the source out of this. When we say incentive or we say subsidy, this is the city's building. The city was responsible from day one for all losses in the building. A private entity came in and capped those losses, so they'll take responsibility for them. we'll never lose more than X. The goal, for us, for obvious reasons, is to not let that go over the cap. We're joined in that, and then to reduce it. One of the reworks of our lease, if we have a rework, is how do we get further incentivized to bring that down even below the cap? Because the question should be, well, great, you don't want to ever go above the cap, but there should be some driving force besides our own pride and responsibility to bring that loss well below where the cap is. So those are some things that we want to look at. But again, from a PR standpoint, I think Bob Lee's report will hit it. Possibly work with Bob Lack, but again, I defer to you, Matt.
Sean, looking at the financials, it looks like through October, we're about $500,000 over budget in terms of bottom line. It looks like 100,000 of that is in a shortfall in revenue, and then 400 increased expenses. What's the plan to make sure that we land on budget to finish the year?
You look at two things. First is we look at year over year, which is an important growth step. Because again, as we talked about the budget many times, we do the budget roughly 18 months prior to the year ending. And a lot of times with that budget, it becomes somewhat imperfect because of the pacing issue. And you're really throwing darts when you're that far out. And through November, that pacing probably will maintain with this type of trail behind. And looking at what we have on the books coming in February, March, April, May, June, we're going to be able to make that up. What is encouraging is the year-over-year reduction, I think, in our expenses. Because normally when you have accelerated activity, you're going to have some accelerated expenses. The scary thing, for me anyway, that I talked about last time we were together, and I think in the report, are utilities probably more so than anything else. It's the one area that continues to grow faster than any of us want, whether it be in our walls or at home. So we really need to address that. But again, like hitting our P&L in an aggressive fashion, like looking at revenues and growing them, and then following through on expenses, I feel confident we're going to meet our budget again. I said that pretty boldly last year. We submitted it, and we will. This time, same time last year, we were trailing behind the budget as well. We ended up meeting it by about 10% or $600,000. So very, very similar.
Just to clarify, so you feel like we'll beat the budget again this year?
I do.
Okay. So the 18-month budget cycle isn't as much an issue as I think it is.
Yeah, because of the pacing. When you do a budget in December of 2010
for July,
this year,
yeah,
that's where you have some issues. But it's more of a pacing issue. Where I'm encouraged is last year we were virtually in the very same position, about $300,000 behind at the end of October, I believe. And we ended up beating the budget by over $600,000, so
okay.
Over a confident.
Thank
It
you.
appears to me, and maybe I'm not reading this right, that sort of consistently over the last year, revenues have increased substantially, but expenses have increased more.
Actually, when you look at our year-over-year...
Is that right, or am I not reading it right?
When you look at our year-over-year, our expenses are down 1%, and our revenues are up a total of 8% or so. I'm sorry, 16%. So revenues are up, and expenses are actually down year-over-year. So it's just down. Now, at the same time, a year ago, when I sat before you, and you just met me, and I thought Sports Star was a sporting apparel store, that's why I like about it. I was trying to explain that we were going to aggressively grow revenues. Aggressive. We were going to have revenue growth that no one was going to believe, and we should audit them. And we followed through on that. We were up 50% in our revenue lines. And I said, but with that, there's going to be a little jump in some expenses, some one-time jumps that are going to be there. We're going to open doors earlier. We're going to be a place that people want to come earlier. We want people to make this their priority on everything. We're going to bring some personality to the building. We're going to fix that door that's there. We're going to take all deferred maintenance off the table and actually start improving the building without a capital revenue stream. Something that we don't enjoy right now, but we hit it really hard. There's probably $600,000 of money in our expense categories that should be capitalized, but we don't have that stream, so we're putting it into there. So last year there was a lot of one-time expenses that were there, but I said, just believe me, we will beat the budget. That I guarantee we will do. And we ended up doing it because you can't save your way to prosperity. You can't save your way to help the bottom line. I don't care what business you're in, but we're going to sell our way there. And I know people looked at me a little cross-eyed thinking, okay, we'll see. But we're seeing it now. The fact that revenues are up 16% and expenses are down 1%, that's a nice story unto itself. It truly is. Because normally you trade off a growth in revenues of 16%, and you'd be happy if expenses grew 10%. You still have a bigger delta in separation. So we're actually bringing to life some of the things that we said when I first got.
I'm sorry to be so dense, and maybe our accountant, our CPA member can explain this to me. It seems like to me that if expenses are down 1% and revenues are up 16%, that the net loss ought to be reducing.
And it is year-over-year.
Below this loss cap, so that the amount that we're paying in expenses should be reduced or should be close to being reduced. Am I correct on that, or am I not getting something?
The goal is to bring the bottom line down to the low as possible, and someday, I'll say, you can laugh when I leave, Michael, but make that number a black number, not a red number. But when you look at year-over-year, last year, year-to-date, we lost $2.5 million. This year, year-to-date, we lost $2.4 million. So it is an improvement, and that's through 3 months, 4 months of the year. The idea is to continue that trend, and you want to reduce what that loss is. That's our goal.
If I'm correct, that overall, in a given year, the revenue exceeds expenses or matches expenses so that it breaks even. If this facility were to break even, then that would save Metro or the taxpayers the amount of the loss cap, which is $4 million.
Any reduction in loss would save the taxpayers.
I think I understand. I appreciate your patience with me.
Mr. Chairman, I think our colleague raises a good point. I mean, we do have a story to tell about the value of these facilities to Metro. And your leadership team has actually been kicking around a few ideas of how we better tell that story so that the taxpayers understand the full value of the investment Metro has made. I mean, we built this building on speculation, not intending it for it to be a revenue source, though we certainly hope that one day it will be. But the cost is ours. I mean, if we want to vastly reduce operating expenses, we can use this building to hold surplus property. But that would defeat the purpose of having this as a destination event where people will come to Davidson County, spend their money on events here and in the area. In fact, I remember last time I looked, something like 70% of the people who buy tickets to events at Bridgestone Arena don't live in Davidson County. They are coming here and spending their money here, which was the entire intent of the building. So I think we have to look at that context. Mr. North is right. We do have a good story to tell, and we will be, as we get some of this updated financial information, our intent will be to look for ways to get that story out and also to provide each of you with some talking points so that when someone says, how about this, that you've got answers at your fingertips, and additionally know who to call if you need substantial more backup for that. But the gentleman makes an excellent point.
Thank you, Mayor.
Real quickly, when will Bob's report, when is it anticipated to be available? It just
He doesn't have a calendar. So.
Yeah, we got
that. It should be done every other month in a draft. I look forward to sharing with everyone, and then the final form of the first week of February. We spend a little more time really in person.
And then finally, just thank Brock for all of us. He's done a great job, and you have big shoes to fill in replacing him or his position since he can't be replaced. But
actually, it's a little bit easier because the work is done. And that's what's nice. And he's setting it up well for the person.
But let him know the board appreciates his service.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean, for a good report today. We have one other item on our agenda today. In the month of January, that's our annual meeting. This is our annual meeting, and we elect our officers we do that for one-year terms, and so I would open up for nominations from the floor for officers for this current year, 2012.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recommend that we keep our same format that we have if the people are available. You and out there as chairman and vice chairman and secretary as Kathy and everything. I think you've done a good job, and I'd like to recommend that we keep our same staff.
Is that a motion? Second.
Motion made, second. Are there other nominations or other? Okay. All in favor of the motion that's been made, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you very much. We are making lots of progress, and I think that we've got a tough few months now to work through some issues that have not been cleared on the agenda, such as parking and incentive, the contract, and those kinds of things. So it's going to be a busy time, and we may have to have some extra meetings along the way to accomplish this. In fact, we may have meetings just for one of those issues versus the whole agenda. So we don't want you to meet more than you have to, but we want to do our job effectively as in our leadership roles for the Sports Authority. And so any suggestions, any ideas that you have and feel that we should be moving, I think what Ralph referred to is time to update and tell our story again of what the economic impact is of both the Titans and the Bridgestone Arena on the city of Nashville. A lot of people don't realize that, and we need to have current data, and then we need to figure a way to keep it updated as our utilization increases and we have more events occurring and those sorts of things. So, anybody have any other announcements? Yes.
I think, we just overlook it so much because he does such a good job, but I think that we should give Mr. Edwards here a round of applause because he does a good job. And we know that we don't pay him, all that millions of dollars that we talk about with the Titans and the Predators, but he does a good job, though.
I think you're exactly right. Coach, and I appreciate you bringing that up. And I do want to tell you that when I talk to Emmett, since I can't talk to you all about sports things unless we're in a group like this, he has a lot of working together with the city, as you heard this morning, relative to the parking and so forth. There are things that he can't move as quickly as he would if we were different structure than what we are. So he is very diligent in that relationship and has created good relationships with department heads of the city. And but the process they work on, they don't have a calendar either sometimes. So thank you, Coach, and Emmett, we appreciate what you're doing and how much better information we're getting and being informed and so forth. You can't give us too much, so the meeting's adjourned. Thank you.